Last spring, I spent a month working remotely and riding my bike in Mallorca. This was already my 4th trip here, and somehow I still managed to discover places I'd never seen before. It's no surprise that the island has become one of the most popular cycling destinations in the world. Mallorca somehow feels both small and big at the same time. Small enough that you can ride around the Tramontana in a day, but big enough that where you stay completely changes the kind of rides you have access to. Most cyclists base themselves in the north, around Alcudia or Poyensa, or in Palma, the island's capital. This year we decided to do something different. We found a great deal on a villa just outside the village of Sencelles, almost right in the middle of the island. Being close to Cami de Muro gave us easy access to both the mountains and the quieter roads across the center of the island. Most of our rides ended up being between 75 and 100 kilometers, which worked perfectly since we were still working remotely on the East Coast time zone and had to be back by 2 p.m. to start work. The other advantage was that we could easily explore a side of Mallorca that most visitors never see: the hilltop monasteries scattered across the middle of the island. I like to call them the island's holy sites. Whether you're planning your first cycling trip or you've been coming here for years, I think you'll enjoy this one. I'm going to show you a side of the island that doesn't get much attention on YouTube or social media. So sit back, relax, and let's go for a ride. Our ride started by heading east toward the town of San Juan. One of my favorite things about inland Mallorca is its endless network of camins. These small country roads connect one quiet village to the next, surrounded by open farmland. Every village has its own church or cathedral, so you can almost always spot your next destination on the island. With most villages only 10 to 15 kilometers apart, the ride feels like a series of short hops instead of one long route. Not long after, we reached our first climb of the day, the road up to the santuari de Monti Sion near Porreres. It was our day off, so we wanted to keep the ride under 1,000 meters of climbing. With only about 100 meters of elevation, this was the perfect way to ease into the day. On the way up, the road winds through vineyards before reaching the sanctuary. It sits on top of a 200-meter hill overlooking the surrounding countryside. The views opened up and we could see the southeastern part of the island between the towns of Fenanich and Campos. I'd come across Monti Sion while planning the trip, so I knew I wanted to stop there. A small set of stairs leads to an old wooden door that opens into a beautiful courtyard. Monti Sion is nearly 700 years old. And one of the things that makes it unique is its cloister. Instead of the usual square shape, it's built as an irregular pentagon. Stepping inside the chapel was a nice break from the heat. The thick stone walls kept it surprisingly cool compared to the midday sun outside.
Das tut tut's gut.
After spending a few minutes looking around, it was time to get back on the bikes and head to our next stop. At the crossroads, we turned left and headed toward Randa. By then, it was around 1 p.m. and the sun was at its peak. When we arrived on the island at the end of April, the fields were still green and the weather was pretty comfortable during the day. But by the middle of May, things had changed quite a bit. The fields had dried out, we barely saw any clouds, and temperatures rarely dropped below 30 degrees during the day. Even riding at an easy pace felt harder in that kind of heat. Puig de Randa became one of my favorite climbs on the island. By this point, we had probably ridden it 10 times, and I still think it's underrated. It's about 5 kilometers long with around 250 meters of elevation. making it the perfect climb when you don't feel like spending an hour going uphill. My fastest time up was just under 18 minutes. One thing I really like about this climb is that the views open up almost right away. As you make your way up, the road wraps around the mountain and you get panoramic views across the middle of the island the entire time. At the top, you can't miss the giant antennas and radar towers. They almost make the summit feel like something out of a James Bond movie. Most people come here for the climb, but I always look forward to the courtyard at the top. There's a restaurant tucked beside the sanctuary, and it's one of my favorite places outside the Tramontana to sit down, grab a drink, and enjoy the view. After a short break, we headed back to the bike racks, and that's when we had the most unexpected encounter of the day. Marianne Vos had just finished her stop and was getting ready to leave. I didn't film much because I didn't want to bother her, but it was pretty cool bumping into one of the best cyclists in the world. There wasn't a crowd around her or anything. She was simply out enjoying a ride just like everyone else. My girlfriend and I took the descent at our own pace while she kept working on carrying more speed through the corners.
Very far.
A few minutes later, Marianne and her friend rode past us and continued down the mountain. By the time we got back to the villa, we were starving. But after riding through that kind of heat, the only thing I could think about was jumping straight into the pool. During the month, we got into the habit of chasing sunset all around the island. That evening, we had an early dinner and headed north toward what is, in my opinion, the best sunset spot in Mallorca, Sa Calobra. We stopped at the Nuix de Sa Corbata, which translates to the tie knot. Instead of a traditional hairpin, the road loops back on itself before passing underneath a stone bridge, creating a shape that resembles a knot tied into the mountainside. For cyclists, it's an unmistakable landmark and the official beginning of the descent to Sa Calobra. We stayed there for a while, watching the sun slowly disappear into the Mediterranean. As I'm editing this video, I keep thinking about all the places we explored this month. After 4 trips to Mallorca, I know the island pretty well. But every time I come back, I find a new road, another cafe, or a quiet village I somehow missed before. That's what makes this place so special. No matter how many times you visit, there's always a reason to come back. This is why Mallorca never gets old.